Okay, Thursday, 30th of October 2025. So, Adrian's daily vlog, sharing smart stuff men should know. The lowdown on nostalgia. So, one or two interesting observations I've noticed with nostalgia. And I guess this is a modern day phenomena with regards to the technology and epoch we live in. But what I suddenly noticed is that remembering the past and being nostalgic now is a lot more, yeah, socially palatable, yeah, but technically possible than in the past. People who were, say, in the 1950s, who were nostalgic, 1980s, nostalgic for the 50s, may not have had many ways to be nostalgic, memories and maybe fragments or old things, things like that. Or people in the 50s being nostalgic of the 20s or 30s, again, very, very few and far between methods and things that they could have in their hand. And let alone in the 1880s and 1850s, thinking back, would have been, I imagine, even fewer things. But today, and going into the future, no doubt, it's going to be even easier to be nostalgic and to live into the past as well. Remind ourselves of the past. Music, videos, you name it. Even in some way, these videos are a way to encourage and remember nostalgia. Me recording videos in different locations, like a snapshot of that place. But I've noticed that people are generally more nostalgic these days. Humans have always been, but because of the technology, the epoch we live in, the videos and whatever else, and the pictures, the digitization of life, we could say, people are able to rediscover the past or re-embrace the past. Videos online that are 20 or so years old, or videos that people did years ago, or pictures they took years ago are online. And if it's digitized, there is no entropy, it'll be there forever. Just copy and paste the file, and it's there forever. It'll be there in 100 years, provided it can be copied to different places. So, nostalgia nowadays and into the future is going to be exponentially easier. And this is interesting. I think in part, this has got some interesting economic reasons, but also I think all just cultural reasons as well. Different what's happening in society here and there, different places, people wanting to go back more into the past to the better times, nostalgic by definition, but also with economics as well, when things were cheaper, things were better, or maybe when they were younger, things were more relaxed. You know, that level of ignorance or that level of not having to worry about things, which is always nice to think about. But thinking back at the good old days, in terms of when things were cheaper, I saw an interesting meme about some chocolate in the UK, Freddos. It used to be 10 pence, but nowadays it's so expensive you have to take out a mortgage to buy one. That's nice little meme, nice little joke, but it pulls at an interesting heartstrings of the past, where people would prefer to live in the past 20 years ago, early 2000s, you name it, 90s, the 90s, whatever else, things like that, and they would remember these things. And that's interesting because that kind of goes into realms of finance and shrinkflation, where the quality of things get worse and worse just to maintain the same price. And then you could argue, and this is going on a different rabbit hole, Bitcoin fixes that. But that's another conversation altogether. But that's interesting. People are thinking about the past, and because of technology, it's much more viable. It's much more. It's more. It's more. You're able to do it easier. That's interesting. And that's an interesting rabbit hole. That's an interesting idea because we don't necessarily want to be stuck too much in the past. I understand the appeal, but we're moving onwards into the future, onwards and upwards onto bigger things. That is the way to go forward in life. Not to be stuck too much in the past. Even though it's nice to reminisce and remember, time marches onwards. And you can go deeper to say, well, those are the good old days. But then how do you not know that in 20 years from now, you'll be saying today, oh, now, oh, those are the good old days. You never know when you're truly in those good old days because it's just like it's just a it's a time that kind of shifts here and there. There's no clear start and end point. It just fades in gradually at its own pace and fades out gradually at its own pace, and that's beautiful to understand. That's life. That's life. There's that quote that comes to mind from the Bible that generations come, generations go, but the earth still remains. Ecclesiastes. Beautiful. Generations come, generations go. The world moves on. And I think nowadays, through the advent of technology, pictures, videos, and whatever else, live streams, whatever else. We can capture those moments. So that means that into the future, people will be remembering more and more things because they can just take more photos. I've got countless photos and videos of me traveling different places. Wow. And that's going to be just on a hard drive, a solid state hard drive. Very interesting. I did a video about this as well, about um, sorting your photos, that kind of stuff. But it's fascinating. It's fascinating how nostalgia is imprinting itself and becoming more staple in life or society these days. And it's only going to get more and more easy. It's going to get easier and easier to be nostalgic, especially as things deteriorate, shrinkflation, Bitcoin fixes this, and other things socially or morally, philosophically, you name it. People are going to be more interested in the past. And we can go further. I would not be surprised if there's an interesting resurgence of a resurgence of appreciation of old technology like DVDs, like VHS. People would be fed up with digital stuff because there'll be advertising or DRM, digital rights management, or paywall, things like that, and they'd prefer, or even as AI and other technologies filter through to all aspects of life, there'll be security threats and attack vectors. And people would prefer deepfakes, for example. People would prefer to use old VHS because you know that's not a deepfake because it existed way before deepfakes and AI were a thing, and it's nostalgic. Just how in the same way people have started to reappreciate vinyl, they may start to reappreciate VHS. Their old favourite movies, childhood nostalgia, on VHS as opposed to DVD or online, because it has that feeling, the sound, the hearing the tape rewind, pressing the button, the visceral feeling that is infinitely more powerful than scrubbing on a timeline or waiting for a video to buffer. It's much more visceral. It invokes that nostalgia. Wow. And you could also argue they're cheap VHS, but on the flip side, you could say they're not very common. So it depends. It depends. But I wouldn't be surprised. It's in the same way vinyl had a bit of a resurgence. People would appreciate VHS again. Yeah, interesting. For the nostalgia. But that is an interesting observation. Nostalgia is becoming more and more institutionalized, more and more part and parcel of society. No, it's society, but life, because it can be reminded easier. Videos, pictures. Wow, very interesting. Very interesting. And you could also go deeper to say that, and as you march through life, you remember all these different moments and times and places, events and conversation decades ago. And you think, oh, wow, how much things have changed. Different world, different life, different society, different me, different them, different here, different there. Just wow, look how much has changed. That just as an interpolation from there to there, just linearly, just how much it's changed is wow. And again, you don't know when you're living in the best of times, because you could even say and this is interesting as well. This is like temporal calibration. I like this idea of little did I know. So when I went somewhere in Grasmere, in 2023, I think it was, briefly, 2023, I had one or two interesting scenarios there, and I thought, little did I know that 20 years later I'd be here again, climbing a mountain. And in 2021 and 2023, wow, little did I know. When I was there in 2001 and 2003, 20 years later, I'd go there again and climb a mountain. That's amazing. That. Or I went to this place here, little did I know. Actually, I did a video back in December 2023, I think it was, briefly, a trip down memory lane, and just to be there. And little did I know, decades later, just wow, that's fascinating. Because then you could say, in 40 years from now, you look back at this period of time and say those are the good old days. Wow, so much has changed since then. Or 20 years from now, wow, amazing, 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 amazing. And that's nostalgia for you. Yeah. Generations come, generations go. The world moves on. Just the world moves on. Entropy. Everything around us will eventually one day be in a landfill site, or worn out, or just exhausted, damaged, empty. You know, this book will eventually be worn out. The pages will come loose because it's been open and read many, many times. These cables will come loose eventually because it's been used and charge has gone through them. They'll just give up. and beyond. This piece of paper will fade one day and be scrap. Yeah, this battery will be empty one day, and then what's going to happen to it? No, yeah, exactly. This cloth one day will wear out, and there'll be holes in it. The thread will start to break and tear just over time. I mean, that's life. That's life. But otherwise, Adrian's daily vlog, sharing smart stuff men should know. Subscribe for more, and you will see me tomorrow.